Hi there, welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris, and today I thought I would go through and actually just show you my initial CV and also LinkedIn, which helps me secure my first web developer role. So as you'll be able to see here, and as we go through it, I was learning sort of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and some other front end sort of technologies alongside my full-time job at the time, which was in the travel industry. And this was back in sort of 2020. And yeah, I started learning in 2020, and then actually secured my first role in August of 2021 last year. So yeah, I thought I would just go through, and certainly from a UK perspective, because there's not too many videos on here sort of with that perspective in terms of certainly the job search and strategy. But yeah, I'll go through my CV and my LinkedIn as well at the time. And let me just pull this up full screen so you can see that here. So as you can see, kind of doxing myself here, I've got my mobile number, but that's fine. So as you can see, it's a very simple CV, and everything's quite nicely laid out, and it's actually just one page here. So you'll see it's not 2 or 3 pages of all my experience. I'd been working at the travel company for almost 6.5 years at that point, and have a number of other jobs before that. This was kept quite short, and that's for a reason as well. It's often because sort of the hiring managers and even recruiters, they don't have that long to look at your CV. So if you can fit it onto one page, and I think that really helped me. So if I just zoom out a little bit, you can kind of see how everything fits together. And there's quite a lot of text. There's a lot of, I guess, experience with my previous role, and I've got other roles and other education as well. And I just put that all on my LinkedIn, as you'll see. So that's kind of the full online CV. And then here's just my quick one. And then in terms of cover letters, it doesn't seem like, certainly within the tech industry, that I needed to upload any. So I didn't really create any. It was all just CV based, which was great, because I do remember when I was trying to apply for my first jobs, whilst at university or afterwards. Yeah, it's a pain to write those cover letters, and also even just like put through applications where it requires you to add in basically parts of your CV into separate form fields. So yeah, if you have just one PDF, and as you can see, I've just titled it chriscoopercv.pdf. That will, there's no ambiguity about who that is, and what it is as well. So just at the top here, I've got my name, I've got my rough location. At the time was Loudwater in the UK, my number, and then this is actually something I would change now, whereas behind obviously these links are effectively links or hyperlinks. I would probably actually put that out in full as the email address, because the reason being, if someone prints this, they won't be able to see my email here. Or LinkedIn or GitHub or Portfolio, if they want to perhaps then have a look at that and type that into Google. But needless to say, that's all fine. And as you can see, I've just got 3 links. It's very simple, of LinkedIn, GitHub, and then my portfolio. And just going down, there's a few sections which I wanted to point out. So I've got my profile here, and it's just a couple of lines, a few sentences on sort of my current experience, what I'm looking for, and then just notice, and then open to part or full remote, because at the time we in the UK, we're in and out of lockdowns. And yeah, I think I was obviously just opening myself up to remote roles as well, if they're available. Next, and then quite high up as well, I've got my skills, and I've put basically front end and other, because that's what I had at the time. So I actually started with JavaScript, and then I put ES6, React, HTML, and CSS. And then because I'd learned a couple of CSS frameworks, for example, Bootstrap, Sass, and Tailwind, I put those next. So rather than having it as like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, I wanted to actually lead with JavaScript and lead with the tools and technologies that I'd actually be working with, perhaps hopefully in the role. And then obviously HTML and CSS, unfortunately, is kind of a given. If you're learning React, you probably have learned these as well. But I also put Ali, so accessibility, and then also responsive design here on the front end. And then in terms of other, I put testing. I wouldn't say it was a lie, it was perhaps a white lie. I had done courses on testing and learned a little bit, but I don't think I'd actually written any of my own tests. Maybe 1 or 2 in jest, but that was kind of it. Certainly at the time. In terms of Git, sort of, I guess I just used GitHub and then had actually sort of pushed it from the command line. Deployments, again, I don't know why I put that. I think that was just my portfolio, which was a GitHub page. But I put deployments there as other, and then just trying to pad it out. CMS, I put WordPress and Contentful, and then also APIs. And what's funny is I've actually never touched WordPress or even used it. I'm not sure why I put that here. I think it was just because there's so many WordPress jobs. At this point, I think my first role, I would have taken anything. And just to get your foot in the door, and if it was hopefully the sort of worthwhile to make the jump from my existing role, which was down here, then yeah, I probably would have gone for it, and just continue learning React and the others on the side. So the next section here is actually some feedback that I got from a recruiter who looked over my CV, and I was connected with a lot of recruiters, which I'll get to in a second, but he actually recommended to add a top project almost, or projects at the top here. So there's something that you're proud of and some work that you've done before diving into, let's say, your experience, because all of this experience unfortunately isn't that applicable. It's not technical in terms of development, whilst the title I had did have technology in, as you'll see, and I'll go through it briefly, is nothing related to actual programming or code. So yeah, I put a project here, and basically it was my favorite project because it was my most recent one, and it was also effectively the first project that I did kind of by myself. So I wasn't following a tutorial. It was a small game written in JavaScript, and I can maybe go through the source code and the game and all of that another time. I know I've done a sort of my first web dev portfolio video, so you can find that on my channel if you want to have a look at this and the others that are on the portfolio. But it was a good way to also not only play the game and sort of link it, where you can see I hosted it on Netlify, so I guess that's another deployment. But also there's the source code if they wanted to have a look, and then also other projects. So there's a second link here to my portfolio within the project. So you kind of almost want to get them off your CV and just actually have a look at the code that you've written, which obviously at this point probably wasn't too impressive. This was one script.js file. But I don't know if anyone actually ever looked at it or played it. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. So the next section is experience, and as I said, I have had a number of different roles, mostly sort of bartending and sort of the paper round and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I didn't want to put any of those on here. Instead, I kind of padded out a lot of this section with my experience, which obviously sounds quite fancy with head of technology and product development, but the role itself actually evolved into that over many years. As I said, over 6 years. I actually started as effectively a graduate trainee, in the sense that it wasn't a graduate scheme. I was a graduate and I was joining as a trainee basically in the sales team. So a slight mix of words and a play on words there, but I believe that actually helped me. They could see that I've joined a company and have stuck with it and sort of gone through a whole change and sort of transformation myself. And just as you can see here, I'm sort of going through it. I won't read through it, but effectively, rather than being sales, I could definitely see early on, and perhaps my colleagues and managers as well, that technology was more fitting for me. And then basically, ended up that I was leading a small team of 3 of us to implement a new suite of travel technology products. And that sounds all cool, and it was basically online booking tool implementations for clients. So if you can imagine, there's a company and all of their, let's say they've got a number of travelers that fly out to different cities for business and for meetings. We would put together an online booking tool, and that was just as opposed to contacting let's say the travel agents directly. And yeah, there was quite a lot that went into that, and it was all quite exciting. So I just added that there were 60 plus online booking tool implementations, and there was some technical support and obviously on-site client training and all that kind of thing. And then in addition to that, so not only the booking tool, there was a reporting tool as well, or a couple of them we used throughout the time. So again, I just listed all of them. This is actually Microsoft Power BI, which you can certainly do development within, but the others are just travel industry sort of packages in terms of reporting. So you wouldn't know that if you're from outside the travel industry. And then one thing I did put was I did learn Microsoft VBA a little bit, basically to create macros for all the spreadsheets that we were working with. Not only for all the reports, but also the finance team had some reporting requirements. So yeah, we created, sort of myself and the team created a number of different macros. And yeah, it assisted our workflow and the finance teams as well. And actually could probably, let's say in an interview, speak a little bit on that about learning the language a bit. And I think, yeah, sort of, I guess also how it sort of assists in the workflows in the sense that it saved a lot of time for the team. And obviously time saving is cost saving effectively. And, you know, companies and employers like to see that. So that's why I included that there. So, you know, just have a look through and see if you can sort of pull on any threads in your current role, let's say, if you're looking to build out your CV. And, you know, everyone's experience is different. I appreciate that this is, you know, I guess it's quite niche and maybe not too far off technology and sort of development in terms of us working with different third-party tools. And then just at the bottom here, I put that I was an administrator for Office 365, which, yeah, effectively we were as the tech team. We did all sorts of PC and sort of low-level support as well, you know, anything from installing software and helping people out if, let's say, their mouse is broken or something like that. And then just the other bit here, I added this extra line, which I think really did help me as well, or certainly makes the CV stand out a bit, is that I introduced Kanban project management, which effectively is, you know, similar to a sort of a Scrum or Agile. It's obviously just Kanban, which we did actually do. And weekly stand-ups as well. So before lockdown and before everything sort of started to be work from home, you know, I was in the office every day and we did have a weekly stand-up of all the projects that we were working on, and would give updates on as well, sort of internally and also to the management team. And then this I just put at the end to say, you know, I'm committed to my own continual professional development and constantly strive to learn new and emerging technologies, which in this case I'm obviously referring to web technologies and all the sort of programming languages that I was learning. And yeah, I think that obviously is sometimes always good to have, sometimes good to have at the end, just to sort of round off the CV and not just leave it on a bullet point. And then you'll see down here, I've got my education, just roughly just the dates. They don't need to know exactly what you're doing for your A-levels and GCSEs. I don't know what it is in the US, how it's sort of structured, but yeah. And then, as I said, I've got my full experience and education on my LinkedIn. So what I'll say is I'm not going to go through my portfolio because I know for a fact that I don't think anyone looked at it, and certainly anyone who was hiring me for my first web developer job, they didn't look at it because I know that for a fact. But anyway, I will go to my LinkedIn, which is just over here, because I think that also has some good points which I'd just like to mention. So if we can see here, what I've got is an about section. So this has changed. It says product and tech here. I think I had something about my title at the time, or sort of learning to code. I would recommend putting that in and just having a little sort of blurb about yourself and maybe just something a little bit more. And what's quite good as well is that I do think it's nice to have a link to your LinkedIn, just so that, you know, you can see your face and have a nice photo. Obviously, this is a professional one now at my previous company. But yeah, I do think if you can just get any old phone will do and just get someone, or even take a selfie of just a sort of a straight on headshot, and make it look quite clean. And again, with the banner, you can kind of have anything you like. I just went for sort of some image off Google. But yeah, if I go down here, and you'll see this is obviously my current experience, so I'll skip over that. But what I've done here is I've attributed skills to each of the roles that I've obviously had, and you can see actually all of my job titles, because, you know, I guess going from a head of technology and product development, where I'd been there for 6 years and 10 months, and then going to a junior developer role, you know, that seems like quite a jump or a downgrade. But I guess in reality, I'd actually started as junior sales executive for a year, maybe even more, and sort of worked up within this company. And they're quite small. I won't go into it too much, but as you can see, just managing business travel and a family-run company. But yeah, so that kind of just shows my progression through there. And then obviously I always had a good answer for sort of why I was looking to move. And obviously at the time it was, and probably still is, I found a passion in technology and wanting to learn more. And obviously with the pandemic, wanted a more secure future as well. So business travel, certainly at the time, and probably still is, certainly I believe, let's say, on the decline. And there's other ways of working as well in this world. And being in tech seems to be a pretty good way as well to sort of build that. So that's what I wanted to be in, and that was kind of my reasoning as well for why I wanted to leave the company. And as you can see, before that, I've just got a shop assistant where I was working there for a few months before I took my first sort of real job after graduation, and then again a contract role over the summer, which is just hospitality assistant. So not much information, but I have linked here, as you can see, the companies themselves, and it gives it a little bit about them. So these are websites, and sometimes it comes through with an image, which is quite nice. And I think that's nice to do, is that it obviously sort of confirms that you worked there almost, and that gives a bit more context to what they are and who they are. So in terms of education, if I show all four, we should be able to see here, I've got my school and then university, and then here we've got Free Code Camp. So I actually put Free Code Camp in the education and put it as computer software engineering. So in my eyes, it is an open source coding bootcamp, but it's self-paced, but that doesn't matter. At this point, I had done 3 of the certificates, so responsive web design, JavaScript algorithms and data structures, and front-end development libraries. And I sort of just listed out all of these, I guess, keywords as well within there. So I think that might help, certainly, let's say on the LinkedIn sort of recruiter view. I've actually seen it, and it is a little bit different to this, and they might, let's say, search for React or Redux developers, or let's say someone who knows functional programming, and I believe that might come up on the profile. So it's always good to have what you're learning and not just, let's say, web technologies. Actually list out all the technologies that you spent the time to learn, and as you can see here, that was over 1,400 hours of interactive coding challenges and web development projects, of which I guess I've estimated sort of 900 hours done or so. But yeah, that's my education there. And obviously shout out to Free Code Camp for giving certificates as well, because I certainly put those on my on here as well. And again, it gives a little bit of legitimacy to the site. So, with Codecademy or Scrimba or some others, I don't believe you get certificates. Maybe Codecademy you have to be on the Pro plan, which is paid. I haven't paid a single penny for any web development training or material that I've used to date. So Free Code Camp really came in handy, and because I've put it under education, again, it kind of legitimizes not only the training but also just my skills there as well. And you can see I've got the two, at least the 2 ones which I think are more important on here. So going down next, we've got skills here. Again, these are quite good to do, and you'll see here I've passed the LinkedIn skills assessment, and I believe I've done that for a few others as well. Again, if I just show all skills, a lot of them were related to business travel and travel technology. And those were most of my endorsements, as you can see down here. So I've actually moved those to the bottom. I haven't deleted them, I've kept them, but I've just moved some others up. And as you can see, I've attributed some of these skills to my current job as well, which I was doing when I was sort of getting out there for my sort of more recent round of interviews for that second role. But yeah, as you can see, you can break it down by tools and technologies and industry knowledge. So these are all the different technologies. And as I said, yeah, these LinkedIn skills assessments are really good to do. If you can pass them, obviously, there is a threshold. And they're a bit sort of tricky, and I think certainly the JavaScript ones has some gotchas and trying to catch you out. But yeah, if you couldn't complete those, again, it just kind of tells either the hiring manager or the recruiter, whoever's looking at your profile, that actually, yeah, you do understand JavaScript and you know it. And I found these really good. And obviously having 5 endorsements so far, that's a bonus. So next we've got some courses, and just down here you can see all of the courses that I've done with Codecademy and Scrimba. I've added, so that not the Free Code Camp ones, I've left those within the education section and the certificates, and then obviously one from my previous company as well. It was just that one of the online booking tools which I mentioned, so that was sort of administrator and technical training. Again, because it's got technical in, I thought I would leave that there, and it all helps as well, sort of as a more well-rounded individual. And then in terms of interests, I followed Richard Branson in some companies, groups, and schools as well. You don't probably need to worry about these. Just do check over them and check you haven't followed any, let's say, sort of dodgy groups or companies or influencers. They just kind of want to keep it clean and just, your interests, I guess, really. So that's kind of it for the profile. The only other thing I would mention is that open to work. It's probably always good to be open on LinkedIn, just to, even if you're not open sort of fully, you can obviously change that to be saying like you're passively looking, or you can see here, I actually just put flexible, I'm casually browsing. And as you can see, this is only visible to recruiters. So on their system, it's slightly different and they'll be able to see your profile. And you can kind of see the different job titles that I've put myself for. I think you can have only up to 5, so that's what I've got here. And then some other criteria as well. It can't hurt to have sort of having yourself open. I haven't got the green, the banner open to work. Obviously, I've been in employment the whole time, basically, since learning to code and then coding professionally. But yeah, sort of just having that on your LinkedIn, I certainly think can help. And yeah, so that's probably good to have. And then I guess just for, let's say, the UK market, one other thing I'd perhaps like to mention is that Indeed and then also Reed are really good websites to have a look at and put your CV on as well. So if you remember when we were going through the CV, that PDF file, you can just upload that and just add a little bit of information about yourself and sort of perhaps what you're looking for, similar to this open to work part on LinkedIn. And actually, I believe that's where one of the recruiters found me for my first web developer role as you can see here, a junior full stack developer. So it certainly doesn't help, certainly doesn't harm yourself if you put yourself out there in terms of your profile on as many different platforms as possible. And actually, coming to think of it, one other which was quite good was Otter or otter.com. Again, they've got a number of different companies on there, and actually you can apply to them really quite easy through their website. So yeah, I'd recommend those 3. So that's Indeed, Reed, and Otter as well. So yeah, I think that's kind of all for today. Hopefully that was useful from certainly a UK perspective, coming across your sort of learning web development and then hopefully getting your first role. And again, if you've got any questions down below, let me know. I'll be happy to answer them, and good luck in your journey. See you in the next one. Thank you.